Welcome to Getting Defensive, presented by Gridiron Ratings. I'm your host, JJ Wenner, and tonight we tackle the second round IDP rookie. I am joined, as always, by my friend and Gridiron Ratings senior IDP analyst. You can find him on Twitter at the IDP Tipster, the IDP OG, Gary Van Dyke. How you doing, Gary?
Doing great, JJ. Ready to get this going. Excited to have Jeff on again, too, man. This has been great lately. Having some great guys rejoining us to throw some light on the situations.
Well, absolutely. And as you said, joining us is the founder of Gridiron Ratings. You can find him on Twitter at NFL_DiMatteo. Jeff DiMatteo, how are you doing, sir?
You were about to play me, weren't you? You were about to try and say it how Gary said it on Tuesday, and I don't think any of us can replicate that. So there's that. But Gary, I love you, man. I'm doing great, cool. Man. Cool. happy to be back. We're gonna talk about some rookies, some landing spots, and hopefully we'll provide a little bit of education for some folks.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to that. Also with us, the author of the Key and Diagnose series. You can find him on Twitter at BJack83, Brandon Jackson. How are you doing, sir?
Doing great, JJ, man. Excited to be on the show tonight and talk about these rookies and their potential impact this season, and also how it impacts some of these veterans. Very excited.
Very excited. Jeff, speaking of rookies, before we get into tonight's topic, do you want to talk a little bit about the rookie guide?
No. Yeah, of course I do. So if you haven't checked it out already, you got to become a member for this thing. It is the best $15 you're going to spend in fantasy football this year. 145 pages of written analysis for offense and defensive players. It's going to get you ready for all of your draft needs. It's basically scoring agnostic. So we try to rank these players out on a balanced scoring method, and we break them down where you should start taking your IDP guys, who you should be passing on, who are the boom bust guys, who's that late gem, right? Who are a couple of those guys you can probably grab a little bit later and get excited about. Phenomenal book, a lot of collaboration from everybody on the team. It's definitely something we're very, very proud of. Go check it out. Click the draft guide, $15. Get yourself logged in and check it out. You're going to love it.
100%. This is a great tool to use as you get into your rookie drafts. I know a bunch of them have already started, so you're not too late. Put down your $15 and beat your teammates. And make sure, please, you like and subscribe below to get all of our most recent content. Follow us on Twitter at Gridiron Rating, and visit our website, as Jeff mentioned, gridironratings.com. Because, hey, your path to the title starts with Gridiron Ratings. Now, gentlemen, there's not a lot of news. Kyle Van Noy signed with the Chargers. James Bradbury's situation is supposedly going to clear up by tomorrow. So let's just get right to it. On Tuesday, Kraig, Gary, James, and Justin broke down the defensive players selected from round one. Tonight, we're going to start right with the top of round two. With the 33rd pick of the NFL draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selected Logan Hall from Houston. Big man in the middle, Tampa Bay. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
I think it's a great landing spot for this guy. He was looked at as a possible first-round pick. He's going to fit in really well in their scheme where he can go ahead and play next to a guy like Ndamukong Suh or Vita Vea. He's probably going to be the third guy. I expect Suh to be back in Tampa this year to try and take another run. So with that being the case, he'll be that third guy rotating in. He's got a good enough get-off. He tackles well enough. He's strong enough. He does everything enough. I don't see any glaring weaknesses in his game here. But if you're looking for sacks, you're probably going to need to look elsewhere. Even for IDLs, I don't expect him to be that guy. He's going to be more of that penetrator that creates problems as opposed to getting home and getting you a bunch of, say, forced fumbles and sacks from the middle. So nothing wrong with that. Just got to kind of temper expectations if you're taking him as an IDL in your rookie draft.
Yeah, definitely a better real-life football player probably than a fantasy option. I know Gary James was saying on Tuesday night's pod, for the most part, if you're in an IDP redraft league, these aren't your guys, right? Stick with the veterans. That's sort of James's motto.
Yeah.
Do you see any purpose?
Particularly with the defensive tackle position, I as DLs, they're not worth anything, any other position if they're on the interior like that. But I can't agree across the board anymore. It's kind of a mismatch of new wave with the new scoring, the more balanced scoring, I suppose you could say. But go right ahead.
No, I was giving it up to you. So what do you think about Logan Hall? How does he slot into that defense down there with Todd Bowles?
Rotation. Exactly what Jeff had that. Yeah. So there's not going to be any, it's going to be tough because they're going to continue to add guys as they lose HOU. They're going to replace them next year because I agree. I think HOU will be back. Just kind of taking time off, probably hanging with Gronk or something. But either way, at the same time, they're going to eventually add some more guys. So I don't necessarily see a really huge, strong play coming out because I agree with Jeff. I don't think he's going to get in the backfield that much. He's going to have to really absorb a lot of tackles for him really to count as a defensive tackle play, interior deal.
All right, well, let's move on to the next pick, pick number 37. Somebody I was pretty excited about out of Baylor, safety / slot corner Jalen Pitre. Brandon, where are you at with Jalen?
I like him as a prospect. I believe me and Jeff, we talked about him on one of the podcasts before. I was watching some film on him. He's very athletic. He looked like he's a good ball hawk. So he's going to be looks like the one for one replacement for Justin Reed as a deep safety. He's a playmaker. You've seen him get some pick sixes. So I'm excited for the Texans. They had a pretty solid draft. If you look at what they did, Derek Stingley Jr. and then Jalen Pitre. Those are two outstanding prospects they add to that secondary. After they had very little talent on that roster, particularly that defense. Those two solid pieces for them.
Yeah, it's always bad when you're doing the PFF mock draft and under team needs it says all. Yeah, that pretty much summed them up. Jeff, what do you think about the one of the members of the Baylor track team?
So Brandon already alluded to the fact this guy's hyper athletic, right? And I feel like on film he's more athletic than he was at the combine. And he was still fast. He still jumped high. He still did all that stuff. And I'm looking at his measurements and I was like, the measurements didn't blow me away. But when I watch him on film, I see a guy that's a very aggressive tackler, very athletic. What I really love is his instincts to the football. I don't know that he's going to be the deep safety here. Really, at the end of the day, Terrence Brooks, Eric Murray, they don't tackle as well as Pitre. So Pitre can stay up in the box in a sub-package set. If they decide to go into nickel and they want that corner, he can just stay in the box, cover the guy in the slot. If they're in base or they're going against, say, 12 formation, there's two tight ends on the field, he can go ahead and jump up in the box as a run defender also. So he becomes very versatile. Some guys might call him like a joker defender, depending on your scheme and your set. It allows Houston to stay in a formation that basically leaves them in kind of a primary or base defense all the time, which is a really unique set because he's going to pivot from corner to strong safety. I expect him to lead the secondary in tackles. There's going to be a high tackle opportunity in Houston too because he profiles a pretty poor football team. Do not be surprised if this guy comes in rookie year and puts up 75, 80 combined tackles right out of the chute. And I think that would be a pretty high number for a rookie defensive back, but that's within his realm of possibility. Maybe he can chip in a pick, maybe a couple other, pass defense or, high profile plays. But yeah, love the landing spot for him. Love how they're going to deploy him. I can't wait to see what he looks like in the preseason.
And now, is he definitely getting safety designation? Any chance he gets cornerback?
Well, they called him a safety when they drafted him.
Okay.
So on the depth chart, he's listed currently as a safety. They don't designate free or strong. But when I'm looking at the guys on the depth chart, unless they go and make a move for a legit box safety, I think Landon Collins is still out on the street. And this might be one of the last places he could even sign. Unless they bring in a guy like that, I find it hard to believe that they're going to take his tackling acumen and move it into the deep third in their defense or into a deep cover 2 situation. Because we know Lovey loves running cover 2, right? He's one of those guys. But if they're running cover 2, I'm not going to take him and put him down the deep right or deep left side. I want him up in the box, impacting the tight end, taking away digs and crossing routes, and blowing up running backs. Because despite his size, he's a little smaller. You know, when you think about a guy blowing people up, he's only, like 5'11", 6 foot, about 200 and something pounds. He's not huge, but the guy can bring the heat as a tackler. Really love him. He's very aggressive. He'll be an IDP asset for a long time.
Fantastic. Now, coming up next out of Penn State, Arnold Ebiketie. Excited, right? He went to Atlanta. Lots of opportunity there, Gary.
I don't think that I was in love with this at all. I mean, I'm having a hard time liking anything going into Atlanta.
What do you got against Atlanta, Gary?
It's like tradition not to have a pass rush. It's like, it's like one of those things, it's a habit. So we're talking about rookies. Quit pressuring me. I don't work well under pressure. Let's see. Still.
Well, Brandon, what do you think about the Penn State edge?
Well, I'm not as pessimistic as Gary is about
shocking.
Ebiketie. I mean, look, Atlanta, they identified pass rusher as like their major need area, and they were able to get one of their top targets. It was very interesting. I thought they had a very good draft. They were able to get Drake London and still able to get Ebiketie, who I believe had ranked in the first round grade. They traded up and got him in the second round. And I mean, they need talent. They need pass rushers on there. So I think he's going to get some playing time in there. He's going to, have every shot to be productive. But he is a rookie, so it could be some type of rotation. They might bring in some other pieces. They have Lorenzo Carter on the other side, but I think he's going to get a decent amount of playing time because they need a pass rush. They had their fifth round draft choice from last year. I can't pronounce this guy's name, but he's going to be in rotation. There's going to be Carter, Ebiketie, and that third rusher there. So
D'Angelo Malone's going to be in there too. You got another rookie, D'Angelo Malone, will be up there too.
Right, yeah, they were very high on him too. So yeah, I expect all those guys to rotate in until somebody establishes themselves.
Yeah, there's definitely when you're the worst pass rushing team in the league, there's a lot of opportunity for people to come in as a rookie, Jeff. What about him as a prospect, though?
Okay, for fantasy, we're leaving this guy on the taxi squad. So I love the skill set. He has active hands. I don't know that he has enough get off to be really impactful out of the chute as a pass rusher. But I have 2 words for anybody who's thinking about this guy or Malone or Troy Andersen or any of these other guys Atlanta took this year on defense. And that's Dean Pease. Dean Pease is the defensive coordinator. He calls all the plays, and he's the one that's pounding the table for a bunch of these guys to rebuild this defense. When he looks for project players, I actually start to have a little bit more faith because Dean Pease has put together some of the most aggressive IDP-friendly defenses in the history of fantasy football. Whether they were in Pittsburgh or Tennessee or anywhere else, he's going to get it put together, and I have no doubts about that. And if he's going to sit here and tell me that I like, Arnold Ibuki and I like D'Angelo Malone, and I'm going to pair them with Lorenzo Carter, and we just brought back Grady Jarrett, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Who am I to sit here and say no? What I will say is based on draft profile, I want to plan him on the taxi squad for a year unless I'm desperate, because really we're probably looking at a 3 to 4 sack upside, for this season and maybe even next. I want to see him better develop a little bit more of kind of that long arm technique. I want to see him get that outside arm up the field to create some more contain. He needs to be able to pivot, get that step in the ground, and be able to spin back inside to keep tackles off balance. So far, he hasn't developed that full repertoire of pass rush moves to be relied on as an alpha guy. This is not the traditional guy we've seen the last few years out of Penn State, like guys like Ogbah and Parsons and some of these other dudes from the last few years where they're real fast. He's quick, but he's not that fast. So he's going to need some time to really get that collection of moves together. Pease will help him. He's going to be there eventually, but temper expectations. Taxi squad.
Yeah,
Taxi.
I like what the Falcons are doing. Before you move on, I like what the Falcons are doing. They addressed their secondary. They have one of the best secondaries in the league. You look at the cornerbacks, AJ Terrell, Casey Hayward, and Isaiah Oliver. So it might be some opportunity for these pass rushers. They lock down those corners, lock down on those wide receivers. Very impressed with Atlanta.
I've actually been a little bit impressed. I've always liked Lorenzo Carter. I just never liked how the Giants deployed him within theirs, and half the time sticking him on the strong side instead of giving him the chance to work off the weak side a lot in formation. I'm interested a little bit to see what he does, but the rest of it is going to be whoever surfaces, and it's just been a while since that's happened. I mean, Fowler did it like once 4 years ago or something, and it was like a desert before then. So it's kind of an earn it type thing. Agree with Jeff.
Isn't John Abraham their last double-digit guy?
Huh?
Isn't John Abraham the last guy to get double-digit sacks for Atlanta?
It's possible.
That's a long time ago.
Wow.
Yep.
It's been a minute,
Yep.
as the kids would say.
Yep. So I do hope this dude knows what he's doing. You know, you gotta have faith, right? Like a Jets fan, you gotta have faith. Not bad either.
Wow.
Not bad.
Oh, sorry, Jake.
Am I
Yeah,
just
they
catching
had a good
strays?
draft.
What did I do?
They had a great draft.
Man.
I was impressed. I had to bring him up, man.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
All right.
Had to.
Yep.
Anyway, next up from Minnesota, going to Seattle, Boye Mafe. Oof. Stud edge defender, Jeff. Coming to a room, I mean, looking here, right? LJ Collier, they didn't pick up his option. So
yeah. Here's the thing. If he would have landed anywhere else, I'd probably be more excited. The trouble
It's
here
like
is
Atlanta all over again. It's like the Falcons.
well, the difference is I don't trust the Seattle coaching staff to actually develop this guy. At least in Atlanta, you got Dean Pease as one of the best guys in the business.
Right. There's some dynasty value over this one.
Right. Mafe profiled as a good prospect, right? Electric guy coming off the edge, a little undersized. You know, he's probably going to get swallowed up by bigger D tackles or bigger offensive tackles.
Mm.
But here's what we're looking at. They don't develop pass rushers there. They just don't. I don't know what's going on with that coaching staff. And my suspicion is that he's going to end up sitting behind Collier and rotating in. He'll have very little fantasy value this year for a team that's going to be pretty bad. Let's call it what it is. Seattle's going to be picking in the top 5 to 6 next year. They're not a good football team. Trading away Russell Wilson just hamstrung their whole franchise. Geno Smith and Drew Lock are not the answer. And in the division with the Rams, the 49ers, and the Cardinals, they're going to go 0-6 in those football games. So they're not going to be seeing teams throwing late. Where's the pass rush opportunity? It's super low, and he's not much of a tackler, so he's not going to be on the field.
Gary, do you have any interest in anybody in Seattle?
Jordan Brooks.
Well, besides, on the defensive
rookie.
line.
Yeah, Jordan Brooks. Lots and lots of Jordan Brooks. But some Earl Thomas in on that, even some Diggs. But I don't know about nothing off this line. It's just another one of those situations like Atlanta. Of course, at least Atlanta's got Grady Jarrett. You know, he had a down year last year, but I can expect him to bounce back. But realistically, he can only overachieve so much with what's around him in Atlanta. But back to Seattle, no thanks. I don't want anything to do with that line.
Well, I'm not going to beat a dead horse.
What about Daryl Taylor, guys? Daryl Taylor, and they signed Uchenna Nwosu from the Chargers.
Uchenna Nwosu?
Yes.
Yep. Uchenna Nwosu is a nice player, but again, he's not threatening anybody to be a 10, 12 sack guy. And that's really what you need to be effective in fantasy, right? Like if you're going to draft a D lineman, unless you're playing in a really deep league, I don't want any of these guys because the thing is, you have to ask yourselves, how many pass rush snaps are they going to get?
Yeah, it's nothing against the players or Taylor. I actually like Taylor.
Yeah.
I see him last year. There was a couple times I was hoping to plug and play him for people using our start sit charts, but even when the numbers weren't close, his consistency wasn't quite there. I like him, but I mean, he's a waiver wire guy right now, unless you're in a really deep format. Definitely somebody to keep your eye on, but it's the scheme, it's the system.
Yeah. And it's the opportunity. So there's only 2 players on this entire Seattle defense to even be remotely concerned with. That's Jordan Brooks and Jamal Adams.
Well,
the tackle opportunity is off the charts for both those guys, and that's going to be the end of it.
Sprinkle in some digs.
Yeah, you love some Quandre Diggs.
A little bit longer, a bit deeper formats.
Well, yeah, deeper formats. My concern is they're going to put him deep. Will be the problem. They're going to let Adams play in the box, and
last year was kind of surprising. They flipped kind of roles there. Diggs outproduced them, but
yeah, we'll see how that goes because Adams is a liability in coverage.
Right, and the odds are that it's not going to happen again.
Yeah. Well, Ken Norton, we can't trust him.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with the rotation that they have going. That's going to cap everybody's upside. I do like Daryl Taylor. He's a very good talent, ascending talent. It's going to be hard for Mafe to get in there. Probably going to slot in as like the 3rd or 4th option. So I agree with you guys.
Well, somebody who we don't have to worry about playing time this year, David Ojabo, 2nd defensive end coming out of Michigan, signed by Baltimore, investing in the future. I don't know, Brandon. Where are you on Ojabo? Was that a good pick?
Yes, I was very impressed by the Ravens draft. They followed their board and they drafted accordingly. They drafted. You look at the people say the Jets had the best draft. They had a great first round, but I think the Ravens overall had one of the best drafts. They were able to get the safety out of Notre Dame,
Kyle Hamilton,
which was like a luxury pick. But you got to remember they had a lot of injuries on the defense, so he's going to fit right in there. They're going to find a role for him. They were able to dress starting center, and they were able to get Ojabo here to fill a need at pass rusher. He's probably not going to play this year with that Achilles injury, but was the guy Tyus Bowser. He also has Achilles. I was kind of surprised that they didn't make this pick, but
they have a type, as they say.
Yeah, but you look at the player. I mean, Ojabo, he was supposed to be like a top 10, top 15 pick. Mm-hmm. So from a value perspective, I mean, this is like an awesome pick. They were able to get him in the 2nd round, and he was probably going to redshirt. I think they're going to find the Ravens are going to find somebody, another veteran that slot in there next to their main pass rusher. They got their they'll find some guys. There's JPP is still a free agent. They'll find some veterans to fill in on their to increase their pass rush.
Now, Jeff, with Odafe Owa from last year combined with Ojabo, I mean, is it just going to be a track meet getting to quarterbacks for these two?
Oh, yeah, it is. So when Ojabo gets healthy, and like Brandon said, expect him to redshirt. I don't foresee him playing this year. I don't imagine they're going to rush him back, and Achilles is a pretty bad injury. Fact is, he had enough on film. The kid's got incredible get off, right? He has a collection of pass rush moves for a guy that hasn't been playing football his entire life. He should be more raw than he is, but he's learned the game so quickly, and he's an instinctual and intelligent player coming off the edge. And it's not often we talk about edge players like, wow, this guy's like got great FBI, his football intelligence off the charts, blah, blah, blah. He is exceptionally bright, exceptionally quick off the ball. The Achilles could impact his agility and the way he uses a spin and some of these other moves. I'm not too worried because he's strong enough to bull rush enough tackles. And if you're putting him opposite of Owe and you're going to let these two guys pin their ears back and get after the quarterback, right. Baltimore is going to be like Wu-Tang Clan in a hurry. It ain't going to be nothing to F with. And so, you got Hamilton back there. You got Patrick Queen. That defense is looking dirty in a hurry.
Well, didn't they draft linebacker too?
I
Inside
know
guy, maybe.
I don't think so.
they took a stud
No.
defensive tackle in the third
Okay,
round.
all right.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's going to be interesting, Gary, what they do at linebacker. I think we were talking this week with Hamilton and Chuck Clark. I think Clark is safe as the veteran. Clark, he's solid. They'd be crazy to pull him off the field. I think they're going to find a way to get both Hamilton and Clark on the field. Somebody's going to be probably playing some dime linebacker, some nickel linebacker there. I think they've done it before. Chuck Clark has done it before. Because to rely on Queen as a main linebacker, I don't think that's going to cut it.
The Ravens love running some nickel.
Right.
They want to put some guys on the field. When you think about playing against the Bengals twice a year, the Steelers twice a year, and the Browns twice a year, between them, they've got a bunch of guys going to the Pro Bowl at wide receiver. And so fully expect the Ravens to be hanging out in a 4-2-5 or some variant thereof, where you can go ahead and put in your 2 edge rushers, 2 D tackles. You'll have Hamilton and Queen in there as the sub-package backers. You leave Clark on the back half with some of the other guys they've got going on back there. Suddenly you've got a dynamite defense. The tackle opportunity for Clark may dry up more than it has in the past because now there's guys in front of him that can actually make a play. And so when you think about Hamilton as an absolute animal, and if he's playing in that kind of a role, 100 tackles is his floor. He's going to be the DB 8 or 9 on the year if that's the kind of way they deploy him. Yeah. But I see Brandon raising his eyebrows. He will be a top 10 defensive back as a rookie if he's playing in that kind of role, period. I'll plant the flag.
101? Rookie 101 pick?
Hutchinson's 1, Hamilton's 2. The grade on them is so close, it's like 99-98. You can flip a coin based on your team's needs. Because Hutchinson's coming out looking like a Nick Bosa clone. And, even in Detroit, I expect him to do some just scary bad things to offensive lines. But
it's way easier to replace. And it's way easier to replace the defensive backs production than it is the DL's production too. So Hutchinson just wins by default there when it's even close.
Yep.
So, but I'm not really looking for too much off the edge. I like the second year guy more. I think you were saying is Ojabo? Is he
Ojabo.
injured?
Yeah, he tore Achilles during the draft process at his I think it was pro day.
I missed that.
Yeah, so he tore an Achilles, so he's toast for the year. So he's going to redshirt. So I have zero issues. I'm looking at a couple drafts.
So he's like a dynasty taxi stash.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He's probably sitting there on your waiver wire if it ain't super deep.
He'll be a 4th round pick, I bet, in blended rookie drafts. People will still take him because the profile is phenomenal on him. And so
dynasty type.
Yeah, definitely dynasty. This is not a redraft player. This is going to be full dynasty, taxi squad. There you go.
Right.
All right, next up, Josh Paschal, not the mathematician, as I learned earlier. The defensive end out of Kentucky went to Detroit, paired up with Aiden Hutchinson. Where are we at with him, Jeff?
I mean, he's going to be the lesser of the 2 defensive ends. Let's be honest here. When this pick came in the second round, I was kind of scratching my head a little bit. I thought it was a little bit of a reach. We're talking about a guy that had, good but not great production. He would, good measurables. Like everything looks good. I didn't see a guy that had dynamic moves to the quarterback. I didn't see a guy with like the same kind of tenacity to get home as some of these other players that were coming off the board had. I also felt like Detroit had far greater needs than another DL here. They've got both of the Aquaras there. You bring in Hutch. Yeah, you let Flowers go, but there's other guys on the street still. If you need to go get somebody, you can go do that. To me, I felt like this was one of those picks where we had him really low in the draft guide. Like I think he might have been the best of the rest category, like towards the bottom of our DL ranks. To me, this doesn't scream fantasy production here. Better football pick than it is fantasy pick.
All right, well, that is fair. Gentlemen, anybody else have anything to say about Pascal?
Yeah, he's going to have a hard time getting playing time because they got like 4 guys ahead of him. Both of the Aquaras. They have Charles Harris there. It's going to be tough for him to get playing time. I think he has positional versatility. He can move inside. So maybe they might move him inside on passing downs as far as being a defensive tackle.
A little bit of a NASCAR package.
Yeah, that's probably going to cap his upside. He's probably not going to get much playing time, I don't think.
All right, next up, going to Washington out of Alabama, big defensive tackle, Vadarian Mathis. Big man. That's a big man in the middle. Jeff, tell me about Mathis.
Well, we mentioned Baltimore has a type. Well, so does Washington, and it's gigantic men that play at Alabama. And so that's kind of their thing. And he fits right in with Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen. You know, I kind of had Mathis viewed as one of those guys who could really play any number of positions. You could plant him in there as a 0. You can go ahead and use him as a 2-eye technique or even a 3 technique, depending on your front. You know, he's probably going to be head up on a guard in Washington, you know, as he rotates in. You know, people are making a big deal about, I want to say it was Deron Payne. They didn't re-up his contract yet. And they said they weren't going to talk about his negotiation yet. He's coming back. They're not going to let him walk because at the end of the day, they want to get Terry McLaurin done. Then they're going to come back and get Payne done. They didn't let Brandon Scherf take his contract off the books to not bring back one of their marquee players. Fact is, Mathis fits in a nice rotation. That's what they want to do in Washington. They want to rotate Chase Young and then both the tackles with Payne
Sweat.
and yeah, you got Sweat, you've got Payne, you'll have Mathis, you'll have I'm forgetting the other Alabama guy now that's there. Yeah, Deron Payne and who's the other
Jonathan
tackle?
Allen.
Thank you, Jonathan Allen. He's the better one of the two. I blanked out there, but they want to win in the trenches. They want to put all these gigantors on the field, and when they go multiple and they say, "Hey, we're going to hit you with an odd man front," they can bring Mathis, Allen, Payne together, get pressure, and then still come off the edges with Chase Young and Montez Sweat. That is an absolutely terrifying thought for any of the teams in that division.
I think that's
especially
more
coming from the NFC East where they love to run the ball. You know, you're getting a lot of beef right in the middle there.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Gary.
not at all. I still see limited production. Your main target's going to be Jonathan Allen, of course, and then I mean it's going to be hard to take the rookie over Payne. So this might be a long-term solution. I mean, they're going to have to start paying these guys. Chase Young's going to need to be paid. Sweet on the other edge. Sweat. You can't leave him alone either. You know, he's going to need to get paid, or somebody will at some point. I think he's on his last year, maybe his 5th option, possibly. But either way, yeah. I mean, dynasty-wise, is somebody to look at long-term.
And of course, only if you have an IDL or DT position.
Right.
I mean, this is once again a better football signing than necessarily an IDP signing.
These interior guys are not going to get in the backfield and get a lot of sacks or tackles for losses, or even swatted passes.
You need something.
Yep.
All right. Next up, going to Chicago from Penn State. One of Brandon's favorites, Jaquan Brisker. Now, Brandon, I should be looking for good things out of him, right?
Right. I think he's going to get some immediate opportunity. You just look at last year, the Bears had a very poor pass defense. And they talked about how bad Tayshaun Gibson was. I know the media were talking about, you know, how he struggled in coverage. And me and Gary, we covered the Chicago Bears on IDP Dime Drop, and I discussed Tayshaun Gibson. He gave up big plays all season. He was talking about they moved him in nickel at some point, and he talked about he enjoyed playing nickel more than the safety spot. So they knew they had a big deficiency there.
Poor Gibson was playing out of position everywhere they put him on the field. Isn't he like a natural free deep? And the guy like 5'7", 178 pounds. Right, a deep safety traditionally. I think maybe I'm wrong. I might be wrong. I felt bad for him. Go ahead, you was rolling, man. Sorry, I did feel bad for him though.
Yeah, it was like Brisker is gonna replace Tayshaun Gibson because he struggled so bad last season. And the Jets, you know, they wanted to improve their secondary. It was very poor. They got their corner. Their was it Kyler? I forgot the guy's name. Jeff.
Did you mean Gordon? The Bears or the Jets?
The Bears. I think you meant the Bears. Oh. Yeah. Kyler Gordon is the Washington corner they went out and got.
Yeah, because they needed somebody next to Johnson. their top corner, and they need a free safety because Tayshaun Gibson struggled really, really bad. I'm thinking Brisker could possibly get a starting job and could be very IDP relevant.
Yeah, they definitely went heavy on defense this draft.
Well,
Brisker's a nice play.
They just needed to draft well. It wouldn't matter defensively or offensively. They just need to be successful in whoever it is that they took.
But were they, Jeff?
I like Brisker. This is a good football player. So we talked about him during, I want to say it was during the Combine show, or maybe it was the Senior Bowl show. I don't really remember.
Senior Bowl.
Senior Bowl. So I kept referring to this guy as the thin red line because he was that thin red line between first downs and punts. And he's the kind of guy that's right there wherever the football is on third down, and he's making a play, getting Penn State's defense off the field. And I feel like Chicago met at Eberflus. He takes over there. He's a Colts DC, very well regarded as a defensive mind. He's looking at this guy and he's saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to bring him on, and he's going to be that guy on the back end who's going to be flying all over the field. And he has the athletic profile for it, has some natural ball skills, instinctual enough player, still has a couple little things where he needs to kind of open up his hips a little earlier and kind of get after the ball. Faster receivers could take advantage of him deep. But really, as I look around the NFC North, you see Detroit. Hey, Jameson Williams is the fast guy they've got, but he's recovering from an ACL. Brisker is going to be that guy who's probably going to be shadowing Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's athletic enough to stay with him for sure. You go to Green Bay. Who do they have? Sammy Watkins is like their number one right now. I'm not too worried. Then you go ahead and you take a look at Minnesota. Brisker is going to be the guy to be that other cover guy shadowing over the top of Justin Jefferson. So he's going to get a lot of attention very early as he'll be the double cover guy on a lot of these faster and bigger play receivers.
Now, is there anybody on the Indy defense who we can see him slotting into a similar type role with Eberflus?
I wish I could say it was Kenny Moore. Because that's a guy that's put up some production for IDP purposes and things like that. The trouble is
Kenny Moore's special.
Yeah, but I think Brisker's a better cover guy. And that's where he might get in trouble because he's so good in coverage. He's going to downfield locking somebody down. It'll take away from his fantasy production. And so that's where you start running into that double-edged sword of, well, you're too damn good at this, and now it's hurting your fantasy production. And so, I think that the goal would be to see him in the Kenny Moore role. I don't know that we're going to get it completely because he's just so damn good in coverage.
That must be a curse to be so damn good at something.
Yeah.
By the way, update, I was wrong. Mr. Gibson is over 6 foot and 200 pounds. Apologies.
I mean, Gary, we've known for years that you have trouble estimating size.
Yeah, but we're traditionally right. But traditionally, wasn't he like a free safety? I mean, for like years. I don't know.
I feel like he was when he was in Cleveland. Yeah, he started his career in Cleveland, right?
Maybe, yeah.
Gibson. He kind of bounced around early, I thought.
He's been around since like 2010 or 11, maybe 12.
All my Gibsons are blurring together right now.
Yeah.
The only one I'm worried about is Antonio.
Yep.
But we won't talk about that.
Carry on.
Brandon,
carry on.
You were going to say something before?
Jeez, I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry.
That's all right.
No.
I messed up his whole brain pattern.
Oh, I was talking about we were talking about the Colts rules, similarities with the Colts defense. I was saying, okay, if he's going to play deep safety, then maybe the Julian Blackman role.
He's better than Blackman.
A lot better than Blackman. I think from a talent for talent standpoint, this is a guy where Brisker could have been a first rounder pretty easily. It was really just a matter of team needs and the way the board kind of landed that this guy even fell to this point in the draft.
Yeah, and we're only talking about halfway through the second, too. We're not talking like he plummeted like some other QBs did.
I had him as a late one. I had him in the kind of early mid-20s, so I kind of feel like it was a pretty big drop-off.
Okay. Well, that's because every wide receiver had to go in the first round.
Yeah. You guys started that. Thanks, Jets.
You're welcome. Next up, going to New Orleans. Oh, I love New Orleans. Alontae Taylor, defensive back out of Tennessee. I'm sure somewhere Ronnie's very happy right now. Jeff, anything about Alontae? Is he a cornerback? Is he a safety?
He's
Who
a
is
corner. He's going to play corner. Yeah, they're gonna run him opposite of Lattimore as best they can. You know, I don't know that they're going to be able to deploy him in the slot. I don't think he's quick twitch enough to be in there running with guys across the middle of the field. But I could definitely see him ending up on the outside. So maybe Roby could kick inside and cover the slot. You know, especially when you're going against teams like Tampa Bay. If Godwin gets healthy, you know they're going to need to have somebody shadowing that guy. So I could see Taylor flipping to the outside, provided he even wins that job in camp. You know, kind of a raw specimen, you know, a little grabby. I could see him drawn a few flags here and there. You know, a good player. Don't get me wrong, right? Second round pick. He had some good value, but we're talking about a cornerback here. Fantasy, man, unless you've got a roster at corner, I'm not going to mess with this.
I agree. Next up, Mr. Williams, Sam Williams, defensive end, coming to us straight from Mississippi. I don't know, going to Dallas. I don't want to speak bad of Jerry Jones. I know he's recovering from a car accident. Gary, any thoughts, any love for Sam Williams?
It'll take some injuries or something to get him real deep into that rotation. There's not a lot of IDP production pie there to have to begin with. So, you know, you're looking at Lawrence, and I like Armstrong personally. I like that re-signing. Fowler will probably, in the end, he'll probably be the guy coming in with the third most snaps, probably fighting off Sam. Something along that line. Overall, if things go right for Dallas.
Now, B-Jack, I know you are a self-processed Dorrance Armstrong fan. Did your heart skip a beat at all when Sam Williams got signed? Any worry?
No, I'm not worried. I believe Dorrance Armstrong is going to be the starting defensive end opposite DeMarcus Lawrence this season. You know, he has the experience, and he showed a lot of progression last season. He had like 6 sacks and a decent amount of tackles last season. They trust him. This is just mostly a depth move because they do run a rotation on the defensive line. So you know, I'm thinking Sam Williams is going to be that fourth option, probably getting somewhere between 20 to 30 snaps. Lawrence and Armstrong, they're going to be getting the majority of the snaps, probably about 60%. But I know that Armstrong does kick in side defensive tackle on passing downs. So it could be, you know, open up a little more playing time for Sam Williams on the edge there. But I don't expect anything that's really going to move the needle for fantasy. You want Dorrance Armstrong and DeMarcus Lawrence. Those guys you want for fantasy.
Yep.
Well, that's what we need to know. Sorry about that. I accidentally skipped ahead to Troy Andersen, linebacker out of Montana State. Got a lot of pre-draft love, ended up in Atlanta. We talked about him a little bit earlier, Brandon. You like this?
I do like it from a dynasty perspective. I actually just got done doing a write-up on my key and diagnosis series of rookie off-ball linebackers. I just finished an article on Troy Andersen, you know, explaining he profiles as the replacement for Deion Jones. Deion Jones, he struggled last season in their new 3-4 scheme, DNP's 3-4 scheme. And plus he has an out on his contract. His dead cap this year is $24 million, so I expect Deion Jones to stay. But next season it drops down to $5 million. So them drafting Troy Andersen was it was in mind for next season, probably implement him as a starter in place of Deion Jones. I looked at his tape, man. He's super athletic. He ran a 4.42 in his combine, which was as fast as all the linebackers. He's kind of like a project because in that small school, Montana State, he started off as a running back and then a quarterback. He was playing like both sides, offense and defense. It was very interesting, very intriguing player. He became a full-time linebacker just last season, and he tore it up like over 140 tackles. He had a couple sacks, interceptions. So he's very intriguing. He could have some upside, especially like in big play leagues. So I like him. I'm very intrigued by Troy Andersen.
Now, Jeff,
Contain
you made
yourself, Brandon. Settle down. Sit down. We could tell that you like the guy.
Yeah, I'm seeing what Jeff has to say. He might just totally blow my analysis up.
He made a slight face before.
All right, cannonball over the bow or something.
All right, so use the right word, project. This guy had a lot of production at Montana State, but it's Montana State. There were still moments where he would get eaten up by these, smaller school offensive linemen. And that's kind of a problem when you're thinking about, hey, this guy's going to have to face off and figure out how to shed NFL grade offensive linemen. He's going to be well behind the guys like Deion Jones, Michael Walker, and the new signing, Rashaan Evans. I don't see Andersen seeing the field this year, and he's going to have to show a pretty big step in his development to get ahead of Evans and Walker. Walker's a converted safety, can step in and cover at an NFL level right now. Andersen might be the better measurable athlete, and I don't think there's any doubt about his athleticism. But what I need to know is, can this guy play linebacker at the NFL level, which includes the ability to use his hands to shed blocks against much larger offensive linemen? Can he get his hips around and knock down passes and take away dig routes when he needs to? Because in a 3-4 scheme, there's going to be times where, hey, man, you've got single high happening behind you. You need to go ahead and get into a hook zone and be able to knock the ball away. And I don't know if I see that in him. For as athletic as he is, he's not particularly fluid in getting his hips around and actually making plays in the passing game. Looked good in the combine drills, but he didn't look great on film. I couldn't figure out what the heck he was trying to do. It looks like he has trouble diagnosing certain plays.
What it reminded me of?
What's that?
The Campbell drafting 5 years ago when he came out of Minnesota and Falcons took him.
At least Devondre Campbell's going to have a D1 school.
Right. That's true. But they were still scratching their heads back then and wondering why, because I think he went like in the third round or something. Maybe it was second round. They really reached for him.
Well, Dean Pease is still the coach, and we talked about it earlier. If Dean Pease is taking the guy, you got to have a little bit of faith, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If you're telling me it's the third or fourth round of an IDP blended league draft, and I've got to stare down Troy Andersen at linebacker or like Jalen Pitre at defensive back, I'm going to take Pitre. So these are the kinds of decisions you have to make in your rookie draft, right? Or if I'm sitting here staring down, Troy Andersen or Chad Muma, who went to, Jacksonville, I'm going to go take Muma.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nothing against
you really like Muma, huh? Over Lloyd?
He was one of the only guys in this draft that looked like a legit green dot player from day one. He's not as athletic as some other guys, and I can appreciate that, but he's the most instinctual linebacker in the class. He can cover. He's a guy that played safety in high school, to put on 25 pounds at the collegiate level to play linebacker. But, man, he gets to the point of attack as quickly as anybody I've seen. I watch him play, and I see shades of like Luke Kuechly when I watch him play. Now, he's not as athletic as Luke. He doesn't get his hips as fluidly around and make plays all over the field the way Luke did, but he's got the same instincts. He's got the same tenacity at the point of attack, the same strength at tackling. He's just a phenomenal player. Kills me that he went to Jacksonville.
See what happens when you just
linebackers down there.
Yeah. They bring in, Gary's guy, Foyesade Aluakon, and then they go ahead and they get Devin Lloyd, and then they get Chad Muma, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? Why are you trying to ruin all these fantasy assets here? You just ruined 3 perfectly good players. Right. I just blame Trent Baalke for everything that's ever happened in the world. Everything bad that's ever happened, it's his fault.
After you screwed up and didn't take Hutchinson overall, right?
No, right? Good grief.
All right.
Well, speaking of Baalke and starting from the bottom, next up, Drake Jackson, edge defender, defensive lineman. I don't know. Where did he go, Jeff?
He landed with the one and only San Francisco 49ers, the 5-time Super Bowl champion San Francisco 49ers. So just want to make sure we count those rings and those Lombardis. Here's the deal. Love this kid. I don't know if I see the fantasy value out of the shoot, though. I expect that he'll actually be the edge opposite of Nick Bosa for the bulk of the year. It's hard to imagine D Ford getting completely healthy, and if he is healthy, that he's going to be at the performance level we saw back in, I want to say it was 2019, last time he did anything.
That back's been messing with him for a couple of years.
Yeah. I think he's dusted. It's time to go ahead and just let him go. put Drake Jackson opposite of Nick Bosa. Eric Armstead will kick inside, and we're going to, look at that 49ers D line, and they're going to be getting after the quarterback. The thing with Jackson is he's going to be an edge setter. So they're going to use his strength and his speed to collect depth and basically create traffic on one side and let Bosa just come with reckless abandon off the other. So that's kind of the way I see them working out. Love the player, love the fit. I think he's really good. I think unless you're getting a bunch of points for, passes defensed and swatted balls, stuff like that, I don't know how many sacks he's going to get you is the only issue.
Anybody else want to share any feelings about Drake Jackson? Brandon?
You said anybody, then you
Anybody?
said Brandon.
I
He
haven't
meant
really looked
everybody
into
except for
it.
Gary.
Yeah, he set me up.
I'm
man.
sorry, Gary. Go ahead. Would you like to
Set
share something?
Me up. No. Go right ahead.
I just didn't know if there was some sort of, Jackson. I was trying to make a connection. Listen, we're at the end of the second round. We're at the end of the pod,
Gary's here just ruining your segues.
right?
Yes.
He really is.
Probably
But
can't
that's
have nice
all right.
things.
Gary,
Moving
love you
on.
like a brother.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next player drafted out of Cincinnati, Bryan Cook, another safety. Coming into Kansas City, where are we at with him, Jeff?
He's immediately better than Daniel Sorensen.
I
Hopeful.
think most of us are.
we hope.
Well,
we
we're
hope so,
close
right?
to.
He's
Look.
he's in that. He's not gonna outplay either one of these two guys. I don't.
Yeah,
think.
no, he's
I
not
don't-
outplaying Thornhill. He's not
gonna
outplaying
take their
Reed.
job. So
Yeah,
he's
he's
the
number
third
4.
man in.
He's probably number 4. He'll be behind Deion Bush, I expect.
Oh, yeah, that man. Then that speaks.
Yeah, so, and that's not to say anything outside of the fact that he is a young player that still has a lot to learn about NFL level coverage schemes. And we're going to be playing. Kansas City's got 2 games against the Raiders. Let's look at their receiving group, right? With Adams and Renfro and Waller and all those guys. Then you could play the Chargers twice. Okay, cool. You got Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, and Everett in there at tight end. Then you've got the Broncos and all their young receivers and Russell Wilson now. I'm not putting a rookie DB in there. That's just going to be the nuts and bolts of it. This kid's going to sit for probably a year. And
It's not Andy Reid's style.
yeah,
That's why
he doesn't-
everybody's always disappointed about their rookie IDP guy, except for Bolton last year. That was an exception.
Well, keep an eye on Leo Chenal. I think this is a great landing spot for him. I believe he was a 3rd rounder or 4th rounder in there.
Defensive
and,
lineman.
Linebacker.
Oh.
And so he'll be a guy that's going to step in and he'll see
With
great
great.
rotation.
Another person for the rotation they have going on. I love it.
But I think, to me, he's more naturally talented than the last 2 guys they drafted. So,
Bolton? Really?
yeah, I really like Chenal.
Huh.
It was all about landing
Interesting.
spot, right? Like
Yeah.
he can tackle as well as anybody. He's super athletic. He can cover a little bit. I know our guy, Shane was on here. Shane Barrett was with us, several weeks back, and he asked about Chenal, and I hadn't even watched him yet, being completely truthful. And I had to watch him immediately after the show, and I liked what I saw. He's a good football player, but Bryan Cook is a dude that he's going to be rotational. Deion Bush will be gone in a year. Cook will move into the 3 spot. Thornhill will be gone in 2, and that'll be the end of it. Sorry, I tried to be quick.
That is fine. Next up, the last pick of the second round went to Denver. Nik Bonitto out of Oklahoma. Walking into a pretty good line. Brandon, what do you see for Nik Bonitto?
I don't see any immediate production. Like you say, he's going to be behind Bradley Chubb, Randy Gregory, and they moved Baron Browning last year. Who was a rookie? He played some inside linebacker. They're moving him to the edge. So I'm seeing Nik Bonitto. He's basically going to be a depth piece. I don't see much playing time, much room for IDP production when Chubb and Gregory are going to be the main starters there. So, yeah, I don't see much playing time for him. It's basically a depth move. They needed some guys behind Gregory and Chubb.
Well, one of the reasons you need people behind Gregory and Chubb is because they're both always injured. So, if You're looking for a depth piece that might actually show up and put up some stats, get some opportunities, Jeff. This is the guy, right?
Yeah, I like him a lot. He's going to push Malik Reed in a real serious way. And if Bradley Chubb or Randy Gregory gets hurt for a considerable amount of time and this guy steps in and plays, they might not get their job back. So he is a very good edge rusher. He comes with a lot of speed, very active hands. He does a great job of using his hands to create leverage against an offensive lineman so that he doesn't get into somebody's body. He does a really kind of almost like a Sean Merriman when he would come off the edge and he would work guys at the wrist to the elbow. And he'd just, boom, he'd hand work you, get around your outside shoulder, and he's getting home. He's so fast that if he gets on an outside shoulder of a tackle, it's game over. That quarterback's going down. So he's like a heat-seeking missile back there. I'll be shocked if Baron Browning stays on the outside. Because if they've got Chubb, Gregory, Reed, and now this kid comes in and he balls out in camp like I know he can, they're so thin in the middle for actual tacklers that Browning's going to kick back inside because there won't be a home for him in that edge group.
I thought the announcement about Browning was after the draft.
Yeah, it ain't going to matter. None of that shit matters. That's all coach speed,
Interesting.
subterfuge garbage. I mean, you got to remember, we listen to half of this shit all year long, right?
Right.
Basically from February through August. And they're like, oh, this guy's got to do this. And then week 3 rolls around and he's never done that. And then it's week 16. You're like, well, he played edge 5 snaps. They said that was going to be his primary position.
Right.
So you got to, first of all, anytime a coach speaks, you have to generally assume it's 50% bullshit.
Oh yeah, it
Pardon
just
my
like
language.
they were talking about. Yeah, we were talking about. I think we were talking about it when we were talking about Hamilton. Something about the check Hart trade rumors. You know, I mean, he's been a Harbaugh guy. Harbaugh customized him, so you know, I'd find it really weird that something would happen there.
Yeah, Clark's not going anywhere. Anybody?
Yeah,
he
molded. They work together. So this is kind of that situation.
I mean, can Browning kick to the inside? There seems to be a lot of competition in there, Gary.
I like Griffin. I like the kid that come in at the end of last year. I think he actually had a lot of upside there. So, I mean, I'm you know, if you're asking my opinion, I'm just going to stay away from all of them. Pretty much just be the safest right now. And if you had Browning stock, man, it just took a little bit of hit there. More of a hit.
He didn't measure well coming out anyway. Like, he wasn't a great prospect. He was a guy that had some nice film at Ohio State, but he didn't really do anything after that. And, you know, if you were taking him, you know, probably in the 4th round, 5th round of your, you know, blended league draft, you know, you don't have a ton of capital in him. So if you end up having to turn him loose, you turn him loose. But it'll be interesting to see how this defense goes. So I think the sack upside will be there, because almost every week the AFC West is going to have track meet shootout type games where we're looking at like 41-38 finals where you're going to have chances to get after the quarterback. You will not be lacking for that. So I just don't see how Browning beats any of these guys.
Yeah, I think Denver's going to wish that they had a better pass rush when it comes mid-season going up against, you know, Herbert and everything, going even Carr. I mean, I think it's going to be rough. I do not like this rushing unit.
I don't think it's terrible. I look at Bradley Chubb and I'm like, this is a guy that had premium draft capital. Had he not suffered a pretty serious knee injury, it was an ACL, right?
I can think of at least 16 other groupings that I would prefer to have a guy
16? I mean,
probably. I do not like. I have never been. I wasn't a big Chubb believer to begin with, and plus it was kind of an earn it. He's
Top
not.
5
it's
pick.
not. I like Reed out of everybody on here. When it comes to Randy Gregory, I mean, I know the guy's talented. He's going to probably do.
Brandon's just eyes went very wide.
Yeah. Right. But I mean, overall, I just don't like it. I just not a fan.
Well, the opportunity to get after the quarterback will be there, and someone's bound to get home because that Raider tackle pairing is not good. No. The Chargers are tough. The Chiefs are good, but they're better at center and the 2 guard spots. They've got the one good tackle. I don't know, man. I look at this group and I'm thinking to myself, this is a better football team than they were a year ago. And they can't put up numbers when they're constantly playing against the run because they're getting their asses kicked in the 4th quarter. So now they're going to be able to go ahead and pin their ears back a little bit, and we'll get to see something. Bradley Chubb hasn't played on a good football team. What's that?
Well, you said Bradley Chubb has not played on a good football team.
Yeah.
Let's see, how can we? The Broncos hadn't had a good defensive edge rusher named Chubb. Just the opposite. Never mind. Excuse me.
I think he was trying to turn a phrase.
Yeah, I think he was trying to. Here's the thing: your best pass rushers, you generally don't find your biggest producing pass rushers on bad football teams.
Yeah.
They've missed the playoffs the past 6 years, right?
Maybe I'm projecting too much drama. I just think it's going to be some kind of drama going on there. I don't want to mess with
Randy
them.
Gregory gets arrested again for something, and Bradley Chubb blows up his knee again, and then it's Malik Reed and Nik Bonitto, and both those guys will be gone. It's no big
back to the rookie then. Where are we at? Anything in redraft? Are you drafting? For redraft?
Here's the thing.
On a bench, you go on dynasty.
Look, I'm not trying. If I'm drafting today, this second, I'm not doing redraft. I'm not taking him. I'm going to let that ride because he'll be on the free agent heap in week 1 because nobody's taken the number 3 or number 4 rusher on any team in redraft. It just doesn't make sense. I don't care how good the unit is.
No, and the problem with redraft and the reason you don't take these guys is because of your bench depth. Right. You don't have deep enough benches to invest in a 4th string edge defender.
Yeah. And if you're playing on like sleeper and you got Micah Parsons is now listed as a DL, I'll go ahead. Like I have a keeper league on sleeper and I'm lining up Micah Parsons and TJ Watt as 2 keepers and I'm keeping them on my DL slots. So let me tell you how I'm already kicking the ever living crap at everybody with those 2 guys.
All right. It's at this point I wanted to ask you, what is the overall, I don't know, grade in your head or feeling about this IDP class? Are we
really good?
Now, okay. So last year we only had like 2 out of the whole draft group that even come in the top 64, which in standard size leagues, top 64 IDP are pretty much what you're running with every week. So, I mean, do we have some guys in here that are gonna be able to? How many is going to come out of this class? Is there 3 or 4? Is there 4 or 5? The average is
top
3.
64.
The average is 3.8 or something.
Sorry, I'm just watching the comments here.
Yeah, right. But what am I missing?
Oh, Ronnie chimed in. He's wanted to know if we covered LJ Collier, and he says he's a potential DL1. And JJ was good enough to reply with a yes, Ronnie, we covered him, and he isn't good. So
Sorry, LJ. That is no disrespect to you.
Well, I think we like the player. We just really hate Seattle's defense right now.
Yeah.
Here's if I'm looking at it right now, and you're going to say, okay, how many of the top 64 are going to be rookies when it's said and done this year? I think the ceiling here is 6.
Well, that's safe.
I think 6 is a good ceiling. Well, think about it. That's a good safe number. Well, it's a good number when you think about Hutchinson will be there. That's a pretty high number. The average is 3.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking Hutchinson, Hamilton, right off the top. Those 2 are locked in. I think Peachtree can be there. So there's number 3. Then I'm looking at, I really still think Nakobe Dean, if he's playing and healthy, he's another guy that can be there. One of the 2 linebackers, Muma or Lloyd, will be there. That's 5.
Man, okay.
Johnson is 6.
Look, you're talking crazy, man. I've done the numbers. Look, the only time, was it 2018? I think it was 1 year in the last 12 years or something that we've actually had like 5 rookies in the top 64. I think it was the Deion Jones class. But either way, there's no way you're getting that many out of this class. The average, I swear, is like 3.
I get it. We haven't had a defensively loaded class like this in forever.
Yeah, but that's what they had a class. That's what they always say. So your overall grade is a really high grade on this IDP class.
This is the best IDP class I've seen in at least 5 years. In terms of guys that will step onto the field and play this year. They're going to play in 2022, and they're going to play well. They're going to be effective NFL players. And we didn't even include the top pick, Trayvon Walker. Like, we don't know what he's going to be. I don't think he's.
You heard it here, folks. That's a whole nother segment. Jeff will be back next Thursday. We'll probably be ranking something. He is going to enlighten us some more as we go, but we don't want to distract too far, folks.
Oh, we can distract.
I get Jeff going. We're not stopping him.
I'll go for hours. I have endless stamina.
I don't know, in my opinion, I don't think the top of the class is as strong as some of the classes in the past defensively. But I think that tier doesn't end then. And you just had all of these solid players, right? You're talking about a draft where a lot of guys, because of COVID, got to go back for an extra year.
Mhm.
So you just have so many more good players who came
Yeah.
out than in normal drafts.
See,
And I think that's the one thing that can mess with that average, Gary, is the fact that this is like a class and a half.
Yeah.
Based on that.
The feeling that I've gotten so far, of course, I didn't dive in post like Jeff does. I mean, Jeff just tears that up. I'm trying to learn, but either way, the whole afterward effect, what was I saying? See, Brandon, I'm telling you, it's old. It's called getting old.
It's called getting defensive. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for tags. Let everybody know where they can find you and any final thoughts. That's a segue, my friend.
Oh,
Jeff,
I know what it was.
You're muted. Jeff, you're up.
Final thoughts. Look, I generally don't advocate for a ton of rookies every single year, especially on defense. But when you find a guy that's special, you got to grab him. And I think there are a few of those guys that could be fantasy special. So don't be afraid to go get your guys like Hutchinson, Hamilton. Ronnie's here questioning whether or not Dean's going to be healthy and if multiple linebackers could crack the top 64. Guys like Nakobe Dean, special. Guys like Devin Lloyd could be productive by default. These are all guys that are going to end up playing a lot. Go and snatch them up, even if you taxi squad them. It's super important to have that kind of depth and youth on your team.
Speaking of somebody special who we snatched up, Brandon Jackson, any final thoughts? Where can they find you?
Yes, you can find me at bjack83, and you can follow my content on the site. I write the Keen Diagnosis series. Me and Gary are covering the rookies right now. Gary has covered the defensive linemen, rookie defensive linemen. I'm covering the linebackers and safeties currently. And I'm just I'm amazed by Jeff, the knowledge that you have on these rookies, man. Me and Gary mostly like redraft guys. We kind of react after draft, during the draft process. We research the players.
But Jeff's changed. We're changing that. See, good idea. We grow. We're growing, folks.
Like a little sunflower.
Yep.
Yep. Well, speaking
My
of
daughter's
little
growing
flowers, Gary, any final thoughts?
I didn't mean to cut Brandon off. I'll give you some of my time. You want some? My bad, man. I didn't mean to cut you off, Kat. Only thing I want to say,
I'm just impressed by all the knowledge Jeff has on these rookie players.
Impressive, isn't he? Cute too. Anyways, so all thing I want to say is please subscribe. Check us out on Spotify. And comment, folks. Say hi, whatever you want to on YouTube in the comments. So, anything. I don't care. Someone will get back with you, especially if you have some questions. So that's really it. I had a good time, fellas.
Same here.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to everybody who tuned in. Thank you for Ronnie for leaving us some great comments. Thank you to Gary, Jeff.
I just remember what it was. See,
Again?
I was thinking that I might later. I draft some flyer offensive guys over some of these IDPs that I think are going to.
Now you're doing drugs.
All right.
That's
so we got that in there.
Did he just interrupt me to bring up Dirty O?
I got it in there.
Crack's a hell of a drug. We're going to get Gary off of it.
And y'all didn't think this was a setup, right?
I'll tell you what. Let's take it one step further, Gary. This draft is so bad even for offense. So quarterback is terrible. Don't take it.
Oh, yeah.
Tight end,
right.
there's Trey McBride and pretty much nobody else.
Right.
Running back, you got the top two guys, and then it's kind of a crapshoot.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally wide receiver and IDP. This is your class to load up on wide receiver and IDP because you know what? Next year and the year after, when you're looking around and there's only one or two reasonable IDP players to go after, you're going to be wishing you loaded up on this class.
Not really.
No,
I'm not a rookie guy.
You don't have to be. It's okay. In 3 years, we'll talk about it again, and you'll have been wrong. I would agree with you, but then we'd both be wrong.
Yeah, anybody, all tenths of everybody that's watching us, they might be interested in that, though.
It's okay, Gary.
As I was saying, Brandon, it's you and me left on here. Everybody else has been removed so that we can finish this show.
That was rude.
Oh, no, they put themselves back in. I forgot they had that power. I'm at JJ Wenner. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Be sure you're tuning into all of the Gridiron Ratings podcasts. Next Wednesday, Rider Dynasty is diving into the Day 3 and UDFA rookies. Tune in to Getting Defensive every Tuesday and Thursday. Remember, your path to the title starts with Gridiron Ratings. Boat drinks, my friends. Boat
Smile,
drinks.
Brandon.
You need a few now.